That's interesting. So, could you elaborate a bit more? What makes you, or the conversation, or the possibility to provide something faster? What did it make faster over time? Because although you are not a solution-giving person, somehow you became faster. What made it faster?
My own impatience, I think, and letting curiosity become the dominant motive.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being empathic and, you know, trying to figure out what's going on, I allowed myself to become more spontaneous. So when somebody said, you know, we've got this problem with employees not being engaged, and should we do a survey, or this other case that I use at the beginning of the Humble Consulting book, where someone said, will you help us analyze our stodgy survey, our old, our old culture in our organization. And all I did was ask for an example. And in the example, he talked about this ridiculous situation, and he presented it to me as a, you know, now what are you going to suggest, Professor? And my spontaneous response was, but what did you do? What did you yourself do? And they thought and said, my God, we didn't do anything. And this was the president of the company saying, I didn't do anything. And it suddenly hit him, you know. He had all the power to do something.
But he was passive.
He was passive. And my curiosity had triggered that.
So that
curiosity has become, I think, the main issue. And I think I learned as I got older and more impatient to allow myself to be more directly curious.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Instead of being, you know, the deep clinician trying to figure everything out. Forget all this diagnosis nonsense. Get immediately engaged with the person.
Yeah, and you are not sticking to the labels and the fantasies, what kind of services they want to hire. You ask for an example, and then you have your own ideas, what the embedded pattern is in that example, and you react to it if this pattern doesn't make sense to you or need to be questioned.
Have you already seen the latest book, The Humble Consulting?
No. Is it out?
Yes, it's out, and you'll get a copy because they just came.
I didn't know that it's all out already.
But you see, you said we are so converging on so many ideas. What you just said was one of the key points. Namely, that as I'm listening to the client tell me something, I made a special point saying, you must try to clear your head and not think about how this might be something you could or couldn't do. Don't think about yourself. Listen for one of two things. Either listen for the problem or listen to why is the person bringing up the problem. So in this engagement example survey, I could either say, why do you want to do an engagement survey? What is it about that? Or I could say, what's worrying you? Why do you want to do anything? Both of those are focused on the situation rather than on whether I could help or not, who knows? But it turns out that those questions are helpful.
And then you get an idea
based on what they say.
For you, and then from what they say, then you get an idea on what level or in what direction they could go further.
Even then, I stay with the curiosity. In another case that I put in the book, they wanted me to create a culture template because they had created some groups. They wanted to analyze their culture, but I would give them the categories. And they kept saying, when I said why, that they wanted to be sure that they didn't lose the company values. And they thought if they analyzed the culture and write it down, then these groups could train the new people coming in. So I'm listening to this, and I think maybe laziness is a very important issue here. I thought about my giving them a template, they could read that in the book. Why would I do that? And they already had these groups. So I found myself saying, why don't you have these groups go directly to training? Mm-hmm. These groups are already in your organization.
And they know what they do not like.
They know what the values are. I asked that, do they know the values? And they said, of course they do. Then go directly to training. And again, they said, you know, maybe that's a good idea. Yeah. So I found recently plunging in and zeroing in on things works better.